In the heart of Chicago, where the winter wind howled like a hungry wolf, a young man stood shivering on a street corner. His name was William, though he hadn't heard it spoken in a long, long time. He was a prodigal, lost and starving, adrift in a city that offered neither warmth nor welcome. He had come to the end of his rope, with only the bitter memory of a comfortable home and a disappointed father left. His pockets were as empty as his stomach, and the city lights twinkled like distant, mocking stars. Despair was a cold, heavy coat he couldn't take off. He watched the warm, festive glow from the windows of happy homes, a world away from his own freezing reality. He wandered aimlessly until he found himself in a wealthy neighborhood, the silence broken only by the crunch of snow under his thin shoes. The houses stood like proud, sleeping giants. An idea, born of desperation, took root in his mind. It was a terrible idea, a thief's idea. He saw a large house, dark except for a single light and an upstairs window. The side door was temptingly unlocked. He hesitated, his conscience battling his hunger. But the gnawing in his stomach was a more powerful force than the voice of his better self. With a deep breath, he slipped inside, a shadow entering a life he'd once known. The house was quiet, filled with the scent of pine needles and old books. He moved silently through the dining room, his eyes falling upon a silver tray laden with food left over from a Christmas feast. It was a king's banquet to a starving man. He couldn't resist. He began to eat, ravenously at first, then more slowly, savoring each bite as if it were his last. The food brought not just relief from hunger, but a flood of memories of Christmases past, of family dinners, of laughter and warmth. He looked around the room, at the fine furniture and the elegantly decorated tree. A profound sense of shame washed over him. What had he become? Just then, he heard footsteps on the stairs. He froze, trapped. An elderly woman appeared, her face kind but etched with worry. She saw him, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other. She didn't scream. Instead, she spoke with a gentle, trembling voice, asking if he had seen her son, her runaway son, who had left home years ago after a foolish quarrel with his father. She described him, her voice filled with a mother's undying hope. As she spoke, William realized the staggering coincidence. This was his home. This was his mother. She didn't recognize him, thinned and ragged as he was. A man entered the room, then his father. His face was sterner, but the same deep sadness was in his eyes. He looked at William, his gaze softening as he took in the familiar, yet changed, features of his own son. He knew. Without a word, he walked over and placed a hand on William's shoulder. It was a gesture of forgiveness, of welcome, of a love that had never truly faded. William broke down, tears of relief and sorrow streaming down his face. He wasn't a burglar, he wasn't a stranger, he was home. This Christmas he had received the greatest gift of all, a second chance,